I have another update on the inverter installation project. I completed the installation today, at least as far as I can go with what I have. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. So I'll give you a tour of the system now that it's all installed and show you how it's working. Now you can see the final product in the generator compartment, which is now the inverter compartment. Got my custom-made board mounted in here using bolts that go through the rails that the generator would have been mounted to. Got positive and negative from the batteries up front on these big bus bars. Positive feed through a circuit breaker to the inverter, and the battery monitor box. This is something I had to customize. I ordered the project box a day or two ago on Amazon, and I had to Dremel out this little hole for the faceplate, and this little device just sort of pops in there. Inside the box there's also the shunt that the current passes through, and the battery monitor uses the measurement of the resistance, the voltage drop across that resistance to check the amperage of the draw on this device. So on the inverter I can press a button and turn it on from here rather than going inside the camper to do it. And we'll see that we're using about half an amp with no load on the inverter. Inside the camper I'll show you the relay setup I'm using to turn on and off the battery charger. Earlier today I mounted this little pilot relay device. It's connected to the junction box where the inverter power comes in. So that's this black cord that runs out into the inverter compartment. What it does is when it senses voltage on the input from the inverter, it opens a circuit. That circuit controls this battery charger. So that when that gets opened, this battery charger is then turned off. Because as I mentioned before, you can't have a battery charger powered by an inverter that's powered by batteries that the charger is charging. That's a loop that won't work. So I'll turn on this inverter and we'll show you how the whole system works. Now the inverter is on. The transfer switch hasn't flipped over yet. You can see in this compartment back here that red LED is indicating power from the inverter. So that relay is active now, which means that the battery charger is disconnected. This is the transfer switch on the camper, which has now switched over. And so now the camper is running on inverter power. I've got the refrigerator turned on. It's being powered by the inverter. It all seems to work just fine in this configuration. Doesn't give any indication that there's any problems. Now that I've got the inverter powered on and the refrigerator running, you can see the refrigerator is drawing, roughly 28 amps. It's essentially a resistive load, so the conversion from 12 volt DC to 120 volt AC to resistive heat isn't very efficient. So this isn't something that I would want to do if I was at camp. I would run the refrigerator off of propane at camp. But while on the road driving to and from camp, while the batteries are being charged by the truck that's plugged into the camper and a little bit by the solar panel on the roof, this is fine, drawing 28 or 30 amps or so to power the refrigerator. One thing I've noticed a couple of times now is that when I've powered up the inverter, the relay has activated, at least the light came on, but it didn't manage to open that circuit. I think the contacts inside that relay may be a little sticky, and what that ends up doing is trying to run the battery charger off of the inverter, which is no good at all. I'm going to have to monitor that and see if that relay is maybe defective or something else. I've now got the electric blanket running on sort of a medium setting. Actually, it's not even an electric blanket, it's an electric mattress pad, which is, in my opinion, even better because you're heating underneath you and the heat rises and gets trapped by the blankets. So it's a really nice thing to have on a cold night, and to be able to do that for a while off of the battery without having to run the generator is really great. So that medium setting on the electric mattress pad is drawing right around 11 amps. And I think probably as the mattress pad does what it does with its whatever internal thermostat it has, that amperage is going to vary. You can see it's changed. Now it's about 15 amps. So anyway, that's another nice feature that is enabled by having that this inverter set up. One more note on this compartment. There's a big empty space over here on the right that I'm going to install a battery tray in for another Group 27 lead acid battery. That'll give us another, 100 amp hours of capacity for the overall system. So 3 batteries, about 100 amp hours each, 300 amp hours of capacity, give or take. That's not too bad for a boondocking setup. Well, that's today's update on the electrical projects on the camper. I'm about done with them for now. I think once I get the extra battery in, I'll do another final update on things when that's installed. But hopefully you found this informative, if not interesting, and maybe it'll inspire you to do some projects on your own camper.